Welcome back to the show. XRP becomes a top 100 global asset, and Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse meets with the Federal Reserve. XRP, $4 to $6 or 27 to 37 bucks. We're going to take a look at all of that and so much more. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com. Right now, $4.05 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 0.4%, and we're still $4.05 trillion for cryptocurrency. I'm loving being over $4 trillion. What will the number be for the market cap of crypto by the end of 2025? Will it be 6 trillion, 8 trillion, 2 trillion? 10 trillion plus. I don't know the answer, but it's super fun to think about knowing what we got in front of us. Right now, Bitcoin 114,000 plus, Ethereum 4,700 plus. The VCs are pumping. Number 3 spot is $3.01 XRP. We're off 0.8 on the 24 and off 3.7 on the 7-day. Range of price right here between 301 and 307. We will keep an eye on it. We have some really cool TA for you to look at before we get out of here. Let's start here. Chad Steingraber said, at $3.02, XRP becomes a top 100 in global assets. I absolutely love this, and this is super exciting. Then he goes on to say here, it took the number 1 spot from gold to, he said, if XRP took the number 1 spot from gold today, using circulating supply, XRP would be $125. Then he came back and said, oh, sorry, people. Had the math mixed up a little bit. He said that's a $375-ish XRP should we take the market cap of gold. Always fun to look at those numbers. Keeps me inspired. I do believe that XRP, as you know, if you've been with me any length of time, you know I believe goes to 4 and 5 digits a token. I've never pretended to know when, but I know what the factors will be, and it will be the tokenization of the entire financial legacy system. And once you tokenize that and bring it on chain, then you're talking about being able to hit the kind of numbers and clearing and settlement and payments every day that could take it and sustain it at that level, not just reach that level, but reach it and sustain it because of the everyday utility and demand for that network. How about that? That's important to me because, you know, we got MasterCard and Ripple, Gemini launch tomorrow. You'll get up to 4% cash back directly in XRP, not cash. You get it directly in XRP. How about that? Yeah, I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. You're damn right. And if they can do 4% cash back in XRP, well, how much longer before we're able to just earn the yield on XRP? Come on in. Take a listen to this as there's more integration coming for XRP through Lace Wallet.
In fact, I had a great conversation with Brad about XRP, and it'd be a lot of fun to do something there. So Lace is going to support XRP before the end of the year. I'd love to do a joint event with some of the people on that side of the aisle and see if we can get John Deaton there, a few others.
That'd be super cool. I love seeing this kind of kumbaya come together. Let's really bring the new internet of value into a real use, right? And not just a speculative conversation. Loving that for us. This is Senator Cynthia Lummis pushing the idea of a Bitcoin strategic reserve and talking to the U.S. Treasurer.
It's easy to forget that the Bitcoin Act did not require new money to be expended to get a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So one of the things I would really like to do is call up Secretary Bessent, who's a very busy man, and say, you got to make time for me. I want to go over again and remind you what our thinking was. I hope the opportunity to do that will be sooner rather than later.
And I'm sure that they will get a chance to sit down and speak with him. Now, with that being said, you know, it makes me think of this. If we're going to have a strategic reserve, and if we're going to have a digital asset stockpile reserve, you know, in my mind, it can't go any other way than this, because if you're going to use Bitcoin to pay down the debt, as Senator Lummis has said, I don't think you do it by just collecting Bitcoin and then all of a sudden, after you get 5 trillion stored up, you're going to just dump it on the market and then pay down the debt. That's going to crash Bitcoin, right? And you'll never get the price for all 5 trillion if you had 5 trillion in Bitcoin to begin with in this arbitrary example. So my point is this. I believe we will see U.S. Treasury issue digital asset bonds. And then as those bonds come and roll over, they get paid out, and then you can start paying down the debt. Then you create a natural cycle of how these bonds mature and roll over. And as they pay out, you can pay down the debt. And then you take another position with a new bond issuance, so on and so on. And then you have this thing, and it's just like this, you know, this flywheel of bond issuance that becomes a cycle of how the U.S. government can then pay out and make the money and then still pay down some of the debt with the profits from that. So, but listen to this. I mean, this is from XRP Las Vegas 25, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Honorable Cristian Carlo, former CFTC chairman, head of the Digital Dollar Project. Take a listen.
This is the one to do it.
Now, they're floating a lot of ideas, Chris, about how to acquire some of these digital assets. Are you hearing anything about the different suggestions on that? And there's obviously, I've talked about this. I know other people have floated the idea. Is it out of the realm of possibility to consider that there would be a new bond issuance of digital assets in the future? Not next Tuesday, but in the future.
Oh, I think it's more than a possibility. Yeah. I think you're going to see it at multiple levels. I think you're going to see it at the corporate level. I think you'll see it at municipal levels. And I think ultimately you'll see it at the national level. And I also think that one of the things that really bothered this president about the private administration, government sees crypto routinely as part of law enforcement. In fact, they're not even able to currently quantify all the crypto that is held by government, because some of it is at the state and municipal level from routine, police stops. And the prior administration would at least, what was at the federal level, they would sell off routinely. And it annoys this president they did, though, because that they do that, because had they held on to it, we might be able to pay down some of the national debt. So he's committed to holding on to the seized crypto, and that's something that doesn't need congressional authorization. They can just do that as a routine matter, and it's across the board in terms of different crypto. Beyond that, they're also thinking about how do we create something that's more like a reserve. The difference between a stockpile you just collect. A reserve is something that you actually actively utilize. So our strategic petroleum reserve is something that is not just used. You may think it's only used if we have a shortage of oil, we release some oil. No, it's actually used strategically and for monetary policy purposes, because the dollar is tied to the global price of oil. If our economic adversaries, like OPEC, decide to reduce production to drive up the price, we can sell from the reserve to counter that and reduce the price, and therefore control the exchange rate for dollars. So we use the strategic reserve. Well, when you've got the BRICS countries talking about creating a rival currency to the dollar and perhaps pegging it to physical commodities like gold or digital commodities, then it makes sense for us to actually reserve that to do the same thing we do with strategic petroleum. So that's very much, again, an earlier panel talked about these coming rivals to the dollar. There's no question that there is desire amongst many countries, the BRICS countries and others, to come up with a rival, but that is why the United States is stockpiling gold. That is why the United States is now stockpiling crypto, because they're aware of those threats, and they are committed to preserving the dollar. Now, we've got to get Congress on that same track. The White House is doing their job to cut spending. We've got to get Congress to do it, and if any indication, the recent debates over the budget bill and the tax bill are not encouraging about Congress's ability to live off the credit card.
And what's interesting is when you talk about the oil comparison here, in the creation of this digital asset stockpile, they can sell the assets out of there. And I think some people have mistakenly looked at that as a deficiency to that. But what I saw is that that is just like oil. They can sell oil. So if they acquire these digital assets and over time they can sell them, they could price control these assets in question just as they do oil.
And you know, countries have been doing this since the dawn of time. Right. We know that ancient Egypt actually stockpiled wheat. We know that China today stockpiles everything from pork and soybeans to rebar to copper to earth metals. And so it absolutely makes sense. As the world's largest economy, we absolutely need to be looking at the world's current commodities and its future digital commodities and thinking about how we have some impact on the global price.
And
are you hearing this, man? It is a privilege and an honor anytime I get to sit down and talk to that man. I can tell you that right now. He's so smart and he has such a way of conveying his points and information and the way he's seeing the market develop. I don't know what else to say. I got to keep moving, but he's telling us it's going to happen. And here Brad Garlinghouse and others meet with the Federal Reserve. That's all.
Did a round table with the Federal Reserve. It blew my mind, because in 2011, I was one of those audit the Fed guys running around saying, we need an audit. Now I'm sitting at a round table with Mickey and Governor Waller. And it was a great round table. Sergey Nazarov was there, Anatoly from Solana. We got Ilya from Near and Brad from XRP. Some nice people, man. And it was good to see some old friends, some new friends, and make some deals here and there.
There you have it. Deals are being made. And here we see founder Charles Hoskin again talking about the Clarity Act is good, but then they're going to have a whole write-up probably by the end of September, and hopefully it gets passed by October. And that date is now being pushed back to November and saying now possibly by the end of the year. I want it done right away like everyone else does.
Clarity Act is looking good. They're going to have a whole write-up probably by end of September and a lot of cool stuff to do there. And then hopefully, with any luck, get it passed in October. Clarity.
Well, that's what's coming, right? And then we know when it does, this is what's waiting because these got pushed back. The majority of them, or at least part of this list, got pushed back to October. And we know that the SEC is currently streamlining the process of filing for XRP or spot ETFs. So this could be a very fast track process, and it could be all horses out of the gate on the same day. And then you got to watch out for BlackRock. Remember, BlackRock is working in conjunction with Ondo Finance, tokenizing U.S. Treasury bonds on the XRP ledger. Now, do you think that if they're going to work to that degree with U.S. Treasury tokenization on the XRP ledger that they would not file an XRP spot ETF? Just saying. Then here's another great question. After all of this happens, the first thing people are going to be looking for in the real world asset tokenization race, because the stablecoin race is on right now, but soon after this is all passed, we're going to see the real world asset tokenization race. And that means custody is going to be the talk of the town. Where do I go to custody my assets? And we know that Ripple is designed to be able to do exactly that along with others. But Ripple's right there. You know that they can get the job done, and so can others. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying soup to nuts, A to Z. Ripple has set up what they're doing, and I would not be surprised if they make a play to buy Uphold, because buying that market maker would be like a real end-to-end kind of thing, from tokenization to custody, right, to clearing, settlement, payments, DeFi, lending, right? And then how about market maker? That's where they could buy Uphold. I don't have any information on the matter. I just want them to. Of course, I also, full disclosure, hold positions in Uphold and Ripple, so that would suit me as well. But nonetheless, I do think it's a good fit, regardless of those points. But nonetheless, listen to what Charles Hoskinson says here after we get the Clarity Act. And I've been saying the same. I think it's going to have the same impact as passing the Telecommunications Act of 1996 for the internet boom.
Charles, you are right. The Fed will cut interest rates in September. Can you really see the future? They're going to cut it. And then we are going to get the Clarity Act. And then we're going to have the Giga Chad bull run.
And remember, we're going to get all them ETFs out the gate too, like horses just running, gobbling up XRP off the market. JP Morgan says 8 billion, in fact. Looking at the charts right now, you see support here confirmed, EMA 13 bounce. It says 5-week retrace is done. Next stop is $4.40 and $6.28. And then we see here $4.20 plus is coming, and it will catch people off side, says Crypto Insight UK. This guy's super sharp, super sharp. All of these guys are. And then here you have Eggrag Crypto OG in the house saying here, Ethereum's Fibonacci 1.618 is around 7,700 to 8,000. XRP's Fibonacci 1.618 is projected at $27 to $31. He's basically saying here, however, treating these two assets differently when applying the same math and numbers is simply biased. So he's saying, I'm not ruling out the possibility of an extended cycle into 2028, which would be amazing, with a major bear market in 26 and a significant local top in Q4 of 25. He's not ruling any of that out. But it's puzzling to him to see some TA analysts believe that Ethereum can reach the 1.618 Fibonacci level while XRP will not. He believes that is flawed logic, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm hoping for Ethereum to hit that 1.618 so we can too. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, bring it. And then looking here, Crypto Bull seeing the same thing Eggrag Crypto is seeing on the chart. So $4 to $6 versus $27 to $37. Now, I know what everybody here wants, okay? Now, that was an easy one to figure out. And I know we can't get to the larger number until we have the smaller number. But the reality is some people believe we won't get past the 4 to 6 or 7 to 10 buck range. And what I'm interested to see in this market is if we see enough positivity and inflow of liquidity into this space that we actually get in the 20 plus range for XRP. And I'm just curious to see if we do it. Look, I'm not worried about these things ultimately because I'm here for the long play. And I do believe XRP goes to 4 and 5 digits. And I have positions for exit and to take some profits at a very small level so I can enjoy that while I watch it go the rest of the way up the mountain. But if it doesn't, at least I took some profits, right? And that's just how I'm rolling. But nonetheless, the things I'm really excited about coming forward here, besides getting all the legislation, everything we need that we all talk about, I'm really excited to get to a place where utility is the price driver of this market, and certainly of this asset. Because when it is, this market doesn't belong to us anymore. And that's what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for the financial institutions to come into play and start driving this asset where they need it. And all I need to do is be on for the ride. And so do you. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.